in the beginning, the thing that would frustrate me, and Nelson used to laugh about this because I would tell this story that I was just a little bit hard-headed, but I always wanted the answer right away. I would ask a question and he never gave you the answer. He wanted you to think. And what he always told me is he said, Justin, I want you to discover it. I want you to own it for yourself, because once you discover it, it becomes part of who you are. And then you can teach it to others. So I don't want to answer the question. I want you to understand it. And so that's why I would ask a question about a paid up additions writer, and I would hear about the Solanaceae family and the potato, and and I so missed that, because that was he was a storyteller, and
Yep.
he's probably one of the best that I ever knew. And he's exactly right.
Celebrating conversations with the late, great R. Nelson Nash. Together, we are joined with the incredible Justin Kraft, who is an authorized infinite banking practitioner and the president of Nowlin and Associates firm, a wealth management firm with over 40 years history in the Birmingham, Alabama area. Now, we're so blessed to have Justin with us because he's one of those individuals who got to spend some of the greatest amount of time with R. Nelson Nash, soaking in those wonderful Nelsonisms, as we like to call them, and sitting in on training sessions and things with Nelson over the years. And so we're excited to have Justin with us today. He's a good friend and someone who is passionately focused on taking Nelson's message out into the marketplace and helping people understand how to embrace the infinite banking concept, and helping all the wonderful clients and the families that they see as an organization to learn about Nelson's wonderful message. Justin, thanks for being with us today.
Richard, Jayson, thank you guys, man. It's always an honor to be with the best that Canada has to offer. For an old Southern boy like me, it's quite a privilege, but always fun. So thanks for having me.
We appreciate you, and we're happy to have you. And our listeners and viewers are actually in for just a real treat. I think back to February of 2012, and that was the first time that I had seen you. And we didn't know each other at that time. That was our very first think tank. Rich, you were there.
Yep.
And there were a number of speakers at so for those who don't know, there's an annual infinite banking think tank conference, and practitioners from across North America converge into Birmingham, Alabama. And it's typically the week after Super Bowl each year. And we spend a few days learning from one another, really nurturing relationships. And it's something that I personally look forward to each and every year. And that was the first year that we saw you. And since then, we've become amazing colleagues in this journey, sharing this process with people, helping them change their lives. And I consider you to be one of the people that I trust the most in this space, and a dear friend. If you go back to the beginning of your journey, because you have such a great story as to how you were exposed to this concept, and where your thinking was initially. Could you take us back to that moment in time and maybe share that with our listeners and viewers?
Yeah, I would love to, Jayson. Before I go there again, I just want to say how much I appreciate you guys and what you are doing in this industry, the people that you are, the people that you're serving. A true definition that I've seen of servant leadership is how you guys run your business every day in your organization. So when you talk about the think tank, it is such a great time to invest in each other. There's a lot of people that spend time, but think tank is all about investing time and bettering yourself and learning ideas and techniques and strategies to be able to help more of the people that we're serving. And there's been so many ideas, and I can't thank you guys enough for how you guys have poured into the community, our team members here. And yeah, it's just really cool to be here. And you're right. Jayson, it is a funny story when I think back. It was January of 2008 when I had the opportunity to go to Orlando to a conference. I was invited by a gentleman in our industry, much older than I was, and I was thankful that I listened and got that invitation. And when I walked in the room, there were some extremely successful people in our industry that were helping a lot of clients around the country. And the keynote speaker on that day was Mr. Nelson Nash himself. So I began to hear Nelson talk about his passion for insurance. He began to talk about his passion for teaching people the benefits of becoming your own banker and thinking like an owner, a bank owner versus a customer. And if I'm honest with you, just to make a real long story short, I suffered greatly from the arrival syndrome because I heard that and I said, well, we were doing a lot of things using mutual fund based type insurance products. We were doing a lot of work in the investment management area, managing money. And I said, this guy's really, he's awesome. He's really engaging. Sounds cool, but we've kind of got it figured out. So I heard it and listened, but if I'm honest with you, I was thinking about, okay, who's going to be the next speaker, or what are we going to talk about next? I say that very regretfully, but it's very honest, and it tells you a lot about who Nelson is, because several months later I got a phone call from the gentleman that invited me, and he said, "Have you read that book from Nelson Nash?" And I said, "Well, it's on the desk, but no, I haven't read it." We're doing a lot of work with insurance, and I like what he's talking about, the tax advantages, being able to control your money, but we're kind of already doing that. He said, "No, I don't think you listened. And I don't think you read the book." He pretty much said, "If you want to come back next year as my guest, read the book." So I got challenged and I had the opportunity to read the book. At that time, one of the guests with me, there were two gentlemen that went with me. One, Russ Morgan, who does a lot of work with Wealth Without Wall Street, we worked together for many years. And then John Blaylock, who's a certified financial planner that's still here in our office. And so we began to have some conversations and talk through that. And I realized that Nelson's office was 3 miles down the road. So I said, let's just call him and have him come in and let's visit with him. And that's where our mind and our eyes really began to open.
Oh, wow. It's so amazing, how things show up in your life and how we were just discussing this in a Facebook live stream on the YouTubes
Yeah.
about being, just being receptive, because that could have completely gone in a different direction. If that follow-up phone call hadn't have happened, that book may still be sitting on a desk somewhere.
Yep.
And you may have never come to know, Nelson, and developed a relationship with him that you did. And you got to spend a lot of time with him. He would visit the office, as we understood, every week. And describe to us one of those experiences, maybe one of your fondest memories.
Yeah. So we do a Monday morning training session. It's at 10 a.m. And where the way that we start with our team here is we share success stories or lessons learned so that we can share different ways of communicating the concept, or questions that may have come up, or applications. Sometimes we learn best from our clients, different ways that our clients have used their imagination, as Nelson talked about, to use the infinite banking system. So we go around the table and share those ideas every Monday. Well, as we got to know Nelson, as Nelson spent time investing in us and in me, we began to see that IDC was a better solution, that it truly brought certainty and it brought a solid foundation to someone's financial plan. And so in 2009, you can tell I'm a slow learner. I met Nelson in 2008, but January of 2009, I did the very first policy that was done with Nowlin and Associates, and Nelson helped coach me through it. We set it up. And so I invited Nelson one day to those Monday trainings. And Jayson, if you can imagine this, we have a long conference room table and I sit at one end. Well, Nelson would come in and sit at the other end, staring directly at me. And I'm going, wow, this is a little bit intimidating. And he was always so gracious. I would begin to talk, Jayson, and he would wish I had a cup of coffee. I saw you had one earlier. He'd say, "Justin, can I say something?" He'd always put his hand up. I was like, "Nelson, of course you can." And he'd take a sip of his coffee, and then he would begin to talk to us about where the book came from. If we had a question, he would begin to tell us the origin of being a forester, about thinking long range, why that's important. He would really get into where his mindset was at the time when we were discussing different pages and different chapters in the book. And honestly, I think he really enjoyed it because he began to come every Monday. He had his own coffee cup. We still have it, Jayson. It's got his name written on the bottom. Everyone knew not to use it. It was Nelson's coffee cup. Wanted his coffee black. If you put anything else in it, it's a travesty, he would say. So he would come in. We would visit for 15 minutes, just he and I. He would want to know, what are we talking about today? And then we would go in the conference room, and every Monday for over for a decade, just about, if he was in town or feeling okay, he would come in, and the insight, and I feel so blessed to have had that opportunity.
And the whole team, really, it's, everyone that is at Nowlin was able to experience that. So what a blessing for all of you to have. And I think Nelson would have thought it as a blessing too, because he got to, with a short drive from his house, he got to be able to be involved and embrace people that were willing and hungry to learn. Those are the people he liked to spend time with. And he was able to impart a lifetime amount of knowledge over an extended period of time, which is another thing Nelson was fond of. He didn't, it's like he talked about his 10-hour seminar. Well, it ended up becoming a 10-hour seminar done over a Friday evening and a Saturday, but it didn't start there. It was a 2-hour session over a 5-week period. And it was that progression of time that allowed you to have things sink in, to you could chew on the information that you learn and come back with new questions. He felt, my understanding from my conversation with Nelson, that's how he felt that learning should really take place.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right, Richard. The thing that in the beginning, the thing that would frustrate me, and Nelson used to laugh about this because I would tell this story, that I was just a little bit hard-headed, but I always wanted the answer right away. I would ask a question and he never gave you the answer. He wanted you to think. And what he always told me is, he said, Justin, I want you to discover it. I want you to own it for yourself, because once you discover it, it becomes part of who you are. And then you can teach it to others. So I don't want to answer the question. I want you to understand it. And so that's why I would ask a question about a paid up additions writer, and I would hear about the Solanaceae family and the potato, and, and I so missed that, because that was, he was a storyteller, and
Yep.
he's probably one of the best that I ever knew. And he's exactly right. You got to the end of the story and you're just like, wow, I see exactly what you're saying. But he was great at leading people to the solutions. And I think there's an old saying, Jayson, I've heard you say this before, is, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yep.
And for all of us, I think we were ready at different times, but Nelson was that guy that appeared.
Oh, all
He
day
was
long.
one that was there, and he changed my career. He changed yours. He changed my insight on finance. He changed our entire process. Our firm had been in business when we met Nelson 37 years, had been recognized. I say this very humbly because of our founder, Charlie Nowlin, another mentor, been recognized as one of the top firms in the Southeast from an industry standpoint. We felt good about the legacy, but we did a complete 180 after meeting Nelson. Our firm, our focus, the way that we conduct business, it completely changed. And that doesn't happen unless you meet that person that shows you something that can really impact, and, hundreds, if not thousands of people. And as we all hope over time, tens of thousands of people. We want to get to that 10%. And that's where we're headed. And that's why those think tanks are so important, because we get together and we share those ideas and those experiences.
And you know what I find too, Justin, is that the more steps we take forward in our journey, the more I realize, I was just reflecting on this morning, the more I realize what Nelson meant when he said, this process is ridiculously simple. It's not meant to be sensationalized.
Yeah.
It is truly ridiculously simple. And we go through these phases, and I can see it now in people who are just maybe getting started on their journey as an authorized practitioner, and they want to lean into complicating it and to creating complexity. And because they just don't know yet how ridiculously simple this actually is. And we moved away from, because we're guilty as charged in having that phase of our journey where it was all focused on how magnificent the illustrations are, and look at what you're putting in, what you're getting out. And it was all based on numbers with a very weak foundation of an understanding of the process. And now, and for the past several years, Rich, you can attest to, we did a complete 180. Now it's all, we only discuss process. And when people catch it, yeah, the policy is the tool, of course, or the system of policies is the tool.
Yeah.
But this really truly is ridiculously simple once you understand it. But Nelson said it's not meant to be taught. And it's certainly not meant to be taught from a place of, being argumentative or trying to force feed your view or your perspective about things financially. You
Yeah.
got to meet people where they're at, but you described it best. Don't give them the answer, help them understand the problem. And then the solution becomes clear, as Nelson would say, and you'll know exactly what to do. But I was just reflecting on that this morning, thinking about the time that we were going to spend together today. And if you think about all of your years, what are you seeing now that you didn't see when you first began?
Yeah. Jayson, I reflect, especially this year, and our journey is very similar. We've gotten into utilizing, showing software and how great it works to take over a debt or to invest in different businesses and all those things. And I really focus between Christmas and New Year's is a time that I actually love. It's one of my favorite times of the year. I think back over the course of the last year, reflect on relationships, on accomplishments, on things that wish we would have accomplished. I think about, what can we do better in the new year? And really what kept coming back to me was to simplify. And we have purposely, and I've been on this roller coaster 2 or 3 times. I noticed that as a team, we were beginning to complicate the message again.
Yeah.
And wanting to help people. So thinking that we need to look a certain way in order to reach more people. And what I realized, and I have gotten really passionate about the book again, the introduction and just very part 1. I told some about this at the think tank. Nelson is giving us our first look at being an owner. That's as simple as this is. What is the difference in an owner and a customer? And then more importantly than that, how do we think? How are we thinking? Nelson would always say, Justin, it is all about how you think. You can hear him saying it to you, Richard and Jayson. It's all about how you think. You would ask a question and he would start out. And I would say that to your listeners that are out there today. The last rule of infinite banking that Nelson added was rethink your thinking. And I had to do that in January. And I decided that we were getting back to basics. I'm an old athlete. I played football in college. You certainly can't tell it now, although I feel it. But I remember after losses, and I was thankful to be a part of some really good teams. We didn't lose much, but I remember the good coaches when we came in after the film session, we would walk out to practice and they would always say, I reflected on this, Jayson, we're getting back to basics.
Yep.
We're going to block, we're going to tackle, we're going to run, we're going to throw. And so that's just been on my heart this year. We're getting back to basics with IBC. We're getting back to Nelson's message. We're going to be eyeball to eyeball, belly to belly, and we're going to talk about the basics. How do we think? How are we rethinking our thinking? And how do we think like an owner versus a customer? And if we can help people with that, they're going to take care of the rest because they're smart people.
I love that because it reminds me of, an analogy that we talk about, I think pretty frequently, Jayson, is, training camp. You have training camp every season, regardless of the sport. You always got to go through, and that's exactly what you do. You got to shake off the golf dust from the, whatever, for us, we're talking about hockey. Okay. So everyone's on the golf course, whatever. And you're getting into training camp. You're going back to the basic drills, the basic things. You're getting that muscle memory reactivated. And so training camp is for us, I think, is a couple things. Number one, it's Nelson's book. That's where training camp really begins. Yep. But something that we're going to be implementing, we've already started this. So we do quarterly client coaching sessions with our clients now. And last quarter, I think it was Q4, Jayson, of last year, we actually did Nelson's DVD seminar on DVD.
Yep.
And we played that through over an entire day. And we had just about 100 Canadians coast to coast on that call, listening for an entire day on a Zoom call. It's training camp.
We would pause and we would expand and we reflect and share. And what has been on my heart too, Justin, is that I went back to thinking through every single time that we had the privilege of seeing Nelson speak.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't spend 30 seconds on a policy illustration. Yet every single person that you spoke to that was in attendance there learned something new that they didn't see the last time they saw Nelson deliver the very same message. They got inspired. to expand their system and to take control of more of this function of banking as it relates to their needs. And they were captured. Like Nelson had your attention the entire time.
Yep.
And I'm describing when he was delivering this to a group of advisors who are all, let's get to the software illustrator and let's start pumping out numbers.
Yep.
And let's go talk to the world about numbers. And Nelson just drilled that into our heads. And he was clear about it. He said, listen, this is going to take most of you a long time to get. But once you catch it. And so I feel so grateful because not having been at Think Tank would have meant not having an opportunity to see Nelson, his seminar before the Think Tank event, because he really got you thinking in preparation for the Think Tank. And the interactions were just so much different. And he was just brilliant at that.
He was phenomenal.
And so now I think to myself, my goodness, all the time that we wasted on just, Nelson would say, noise. Stop majoring in the minors. Help people understand the problem. Once you get there, and so we just changed it all. And oh man, I don't know. I just feel so grateful for it because I'm really much like you. This year has just been a year of let's expand the simplicity of this.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll repel people who they haven't changed the way that they're thinking. They want the product. I want to buy this product for the rate of return or for the ability to borrow against its accumulation. And well, can you take a moment and describe to me what the problem is? Yeah, the problem is you haven't sold me one yet. No, that's not the problem. Right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me how much premium you want to put in. If you don't have an understanding of the problem, we don't have a basis to work together, because all that we're going to be talking about and all that you're going to remember is what you bought from me, not why you're doing this.
We have a gentleman in our office, Jayson, and hearing you talk just brought me back to one of those Monday morning stories. And I can remember in this particular gentleman, it changed the trajectory of his career. One conversation and one comment that Nelson made. And I think this is huge for your listeners that are out there, because I think it's in the second paragraph of Nelson's book in part 1. We were having an advisor conversation about different companies and what is the dividend rate and who's direct recognition and who's not, and all of these things. And sure enough, Nelson took a sip of his coffee. Justin, can I say something? I said, yes, sir. What's the most important business in the world? I still remember it like it was yesterday. And of course I knew the answer, but I wanted the others because I've heard Nelson say it 1,001 times. And people sort of looked at him funny, and he said, the banking business, right? Everybody, when they get a check, the first place that it goes is into a bank. It's the most important business in the world. So we need to do whatever we do well. We need to do whatever we do it well, and be in the banking business, right? He said, now, Justin, if you're the owner of a bank, do you think you're going to be better off than if you're not? I said, I would think so. And he said, right. He said, so if the bank was in Birmingham, Alabama, if it was in Dallas, Texas, if it was in, whatever small city, you're going to be doing okay, right? He said, what are we talking about here? He said, let's find good companies. Let's teach people how to be owners, and quit, to your exact point, quit majoring in the noise. And that is exactly how simple it is to rethink our thinking, right? Because companies ebb and flow, they come and go. We need to find good companies. And Jayson, that's our job, is to partner with our clients to make sure we're with good, solid companies.
For sure.
But the rest of it is about how we think, how we use it. It's about being in the most important business there is in the world. That's the banking business. And so if you don't have 25 million in Alabama to go get a bank charter in 10 years, there's not a better way to do it. The back office is taken care of for you. You have all the characteristics. It's that simple. And that's what Nelson discovered. That's what he taught us. And I would just say to your listeners out there, keep it simple and expand your imagination, expand your knowledge, and don't worry about the policy. Policy is the tool, it's the reservoir. Our money's got to reside somewhere and flow through some tool, and that's the policy. The rest of it is about how we use
There, you heard it and you saw it from one of the best practitioners in the world. Never mind just the state of Alabama, one of the best in the world. And
We should get the video
for
editors
inspiring me, Justin.
to insert a little mic drop, thing that comes over on the screen after that happens. And that's another thing that Nelson would say. If you'd ask him the question, again, a point blank question, like, okay, Nelson, well, what's the best policy? Because I'm sure he got that question a lot. What's the best one? Nelson would say, the one you started.
That's right. Yep.
He wouldn't care
It was
the
just
company, the details, the rider of this or that. He's like, but the one you got started, because it was a function of time. Even if it was done not well or designed poorly, or it maybe lacked a little bit of refinement, you can't make up the time.
Yep.
If you had one 10 years ago and you're just now, maybe you had one started that wasn't designed for infinite banking. Oh, well, okay. But you got 10 years under your belt. Great. That's the best policy. You can't make up the time.
That's right. 100%.
Can't go back and recreate anything better because you can't go back in time.
That's right. Think of the state farm policy, right?
There you go.
And it worked really, really well.
Absolutely. And when you think about, Justin, in with your involvement in sports and, being a teammate and all the lessons that you learned, how did you translate that into your business and how you coach and how you develop people? Because I personally, much like you, like I love being a teammate. I love coaching and developing people and helping people recognize that there's far more potential than what they're currently, demonstrating. And there's always bigger, always better, always room to grow and to learn. But maybe share with listeners a little bit about what you brought with you from your experience in sport into business.
Yeah. For me, I think I love being a part of a team. I would not do well. I don't think we were created to walk alone. And I never do well when I try to do that, Jayson. So being a part of a team and surrounding myself with really awesome people where we can feed off each other, where we can share things together. It just, it lifts all the boats, as they say about the rising tide. Right. And so I love working with people that have played sports in the past because they understand the importance of hard work. They understand the importance of what you do today is not necessarily going to pay dividends tomorrow, but if you do it consistently, 6 months, a year, 5 years from now, it makes an impact. So our habits matter. And they understand that the power of hard work, and then they understand how to work as a team. We were created that way. And so for me, if I were a one-man show in an office, boy, I would be so ineffective. And plus, sometimes I get these ideas, and Jayson, they're not always right. So it's good to have other people go, well, hey, have you thought about it this way? Okay, yeah, thank you. I need that. I need that kick in the butt sometimes.
Well, and to have a dynamic where that's okay. I share all the time. Like I want my views challenged.
Yeah,
I welcome that. Because it helps you rethink your thinking.
Yep.
And if nothing beats being a teammate.
And I'll say this about Nelson. One of the things that I love as I reflect back, we've talked about this before. Nelson was not a businessman. And I say that respectfully, because if that were his driving goal, this would have been set up totally, totally differently.
Yeah.
Nelson was a bottom-up leader. He was a servant leader. He led by example. And what he wanted to do was John Maxwell, who I love, that, and I read Maxwell all the time. John Maxwell said, success is all about you and what you've done, but significance is about others. And if you talk to anyone that knew Nelson, they would tell you he was a significant person in their life. And that was because he thought about others. And I think that's that teamwork approach, right? You want to be sure that you're not the one that lets down the team. You want to see everyone succeed. And that's the epitome of who Nelson was every day.
Amen to that.
Yep.
Rich, isn't that good?
Yeah, it reminds me of something our friend James likes to say, which is that iron sharpens iron.
Yep.
And Nelson, would also talk a lot, especially in the last, number of years, in the conversations I would have with him. In fact, I got a book that he sent me. I believe it's even, he wrote this note in the cover of the book, and it's, he was just looking for fertile soil to plant high quality seeds.
Yep.
And that was his mindset. And I think, again, reflecting on his ability, his opportunity to share in those Monday morning training sessions, that was him finding fertile ground and being able to, hone in on those high quality seeds. Right. So that's just something that really made, that gave Nelson such a smile. And one thing I really do miss is, of course, is the jokes and his laugh. Every time at a think tank, just, when he would be sitting in the back of the room somewhere and some comment would be made, and he would have that chuckle that, yeah. And it was just, it was magnetic, it just drew you into him. Whatever was up on this, everyone had to turn and see Nelson, over there chuckling on the side. And I just really loved that aspect of him. So he was a very funny guy. And but I was thinking about, you talking about the transition from the 180 that you guys did in your organization around that 2009 shift. And I was just reflecting as we're talking here about some of the challenges that may have come up there, because being more on the money side of I guess, like, the traditional financial business model, and then making that shift, I would imagine that there was some challenges that presented themselves for you guys as you went out to your clients to share with them this idea that, you were going to be moving forward with. And it's not that we weren't still helping them and looking after the money business, but that you were implementing something new. When you reflect back on that and you think through some of those challenges that came up, I would imagine there was some clients that maybe weren't on board and maybe left the firm. And of course, new ones came in. And so maybe just talk us through a little bit about that. Cause I think people today, they're watching this for the first time. It's their first exposure to this idea of Nelson and becoming your own banker.
Yeah.
And they've been in that path, and they're now being exposed to this new possibility in front of them.
Yeah.
Walk us through some of those challenges and how you guys, help people understand the advantage of moving forward down a Nelson Nash kind of oriented methodology.
Richard, that's such a great question. And it may surprise you. I think we had a bigger challenge with ourselves as advisors and in the office. That was where the challenge was, much more so. It was a slow transition. It didn't happen overnight, but some people were early adopters as advisors that really got it. And then others, it took a little while. They had to put their toe in. And then some, it took as long as a few years before their practice really implemented what Nelson has taught us. So it was more the internal debate, for lack of a better word, inside those Monday morning sessions and one-on-one. That was where a lot of that took place. What I found that really surprised me, and this was, I call those one of the God winks. Early on, the first few clients that I went to go see were unbelievably receptive. In fact, I can remember a story about a gentleman who said, I have been waiting on something like this. I have not felt good about what we were doing. It just didn't have any certainty for me. And I remember him taking out his checkbook and writing a check, and I had no idea what I was saying. I brought in Nelson's book. I went through page 40 and halfway stammered through, a couple of things. And he said, this is exactly what I've been looking for. And I remember coming back to the office, and I told Charlie Nowlin and some other advisors here, I said, to me, this was a sign that we're headed in the right direction. I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but we're headed in the right direction.
And it just felt, it just, everything about it felt proper and in place. And yeah, this is all I've known in my journey in this profession.
Yeah.
And experiencing just that very same feeling of, I'll never, ever forget closing that first deal and getting it done and thinking, oh my gosh, I could do this. And it feels right. It just feels like, yeah. And then it just blossomed, from there, and wow.
So I've got to ask a favor.
Yeah.
So at some point, I'm inviting myself back. At some point, can we do this again? Because this has been a blast.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got to do that. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. And again, Richard, you said for those that are listening, maybe for the first time and just hearing this, here's what I would tell you: just take the next step, whatever that is. Get the book, watch the video, talk to Jayson, Richard, someone on their team, ask the question that you have. It will not be time wasted, I can assure you. Infinite banking may not be the ultimate solution for you. Who knows the answer, but you owe it to yourself to understand how to think like an owner versus a customer and what that could mean for you and your family and your business down the road.
Brilliant.
Love it.
Love it. Rich, take us home.
Well, Justin, we always like to, close our show by asking people, thinking about, again, all the wonderful people that you've helped and mentored and coached throughout your life. You may not, although you used to wear a jersey, when you walk into your office, you don't show up with a cape. And so you may not think of yourself as a superhero, but when you show up for your clients and for your teammates the way that you've been doing, and for your comrades, the people that you connect with at the infinite banking think tanks that we attend. I know for me, you've been a hero in how you've shown up and shared your story at those events. You're really doing something impactful. So our question for you is, who do you most want to be a hero to?
Oh, man. What an awesome question. So for me, my faith is very, very important. And there's a scripture that was laid on my heart this year in Psalm 71:7. And it says, may you be a sign to many that he is your refuge. And so if I could say anything, the last conversation we had on a Monday, I did get to talk to him in the hospital, but the last conversation we had, I said to Nelson, Nelson, you have impacted hundreds of thousands of people and your reach is going to touch millions of people. How does that make you feel? And he said, Justin, if you believe there's a greater light than us, then it's an awesome honor just to be a small reflection of that light. And hopefully I've done that. And those words always impacted me. So when I saw that verse, that's what I wanted, is just, if there's any way, any shape, any way that I can be a very small light, that's what I need to strive to do. And I'm not real good at it, but I want to get better.
Well, I'll tell you, we appreciate you, more than we can say. So Justin, thank you so much. And to all our viewers on the YouTubes, you would have seen a playlist that just showed up. That's thanks to our amazing editing team. We say that all the time because they really are amazing. Continue your journey of learning. And the playlist that you're seeing is showing up for a reason. It's showing up to inspire you to continue that journey of growth and learning. And we will have you back again, Justin, I promise you. And we appreciate you very much. And so make the rest of your week great. Best of luck at the chiropractor.
Thank you.
And we'll catch up with you soon.
See you guys.
All right. See ya.
Bye-bye.